Welcome to another episode of Star Path by Kara. I'm Kara, your astrologist for today, and I'm going to get into some of the really interesting stuff that we have coming up in April. So let's cut to the chase. We're going to get right to it. April 7th, Mercury is going to turn direct, and hallelujah, this is great news for any heavy Virgo and Gemini placements. You know who you are. And Mercury turning direct in Pisces is going to have us backtracking over some territory that we have already energetically been processing, but this time we're online. Now, as the week progresses, we get into a very karmic full moon in Libra, where on April 12th, the very same day, Venus is going to go direct in Pisces. So I think of this as like, however you've been navigating the month of March, primarily, as far as like being able to process your emotions, speaking clearly and effectively, that might not have been available to you. But where we've been really blocked and just miscommunicating and things have just felt really off, there's been a lot of low self-worth, a lot of budget issues. You can see that globally. This is where we start to move forward. And I also think of this as like, if things have just felt like wrong and you're not seeing justice, expect to feel a sense of something kind of being put correctly during this time period where Venus goes direct and the full moon in Libra. Because Libra is also ruling balance, harmony, aesthetics, and also justice. So think of this as a course correction and a rebalancing of wherever things have been really off. And so as we keep moving through the month of April, this is really interesting. We're going to be having this for most of April, but we are going to have Saturn, Venus, and the North Node in a conjunction, which pretty much means they're all in a stack. And this is a really special but interesting time of destiny, our worth and values, and Saturn with the dream. So I think of this as like building a mystery, building your destiny. So wherever we have the North Node, that is the energy that we're pulling ourselves into. That's the front of our ship, our destiny. And wherever the South Node is, that's where we're letting go. I think of it as like your past life. You already know how to do it. It comes naturally to you, or it's just a pattern at this point, and it doesn't serve your purpose. So, North Node in Pisces in this conjunction is our destiny. And this is where we are encouraged during this transit to surrender, trust, let go. We're giving it up to a higher power. We're going with our intuition, and we're letting go of the need for things to make a lot of sense on paper. Logic, over analytical, practical, those types of things. We're actually being asked to let this go, especially in any way that it's toxic or creating too much self-editing that we're unable to get our projects off the ground and our new path. So that's the North Node in Pisces. And then you've got Saturn finishing up its transit. Saturn has been there for about 2 years, and it's ready to move on into Aries, which will be a totally different energy at the end of May. But until then, it's really tightly sitting and working with Venus and the North Node. So Saturn is putting in the framework, the discipline, the structure, the foundation. Saturn is saying, hey, you have this destiny, you have this dream, but we gotta have rules, and we gotta make sure this is something that's gonna last. So Saturn is going to be making sure that we are not taking shortcuts and that we're putting things together properly, because otherwise, what is the point of all these retrogrades where we're reassessing, reanalyzing, reevaluating everything? So it really does start to make sense and fall into place. And then you have Venus here, which is a whole new kind of revision of your dreams, how you're feeling good, what is really worth it to you, and your partnerships. So I almost have been looking at the beginning of this year as if we had laced up a really tall pair of Doc Martens and you missed one of the eyes. So we had to go through bit by bit with the laces and undo everything so that we could go all the way back and correct and then relace everything up so that it's properly put in place, because we have a long journey ahead. So think of how annoying that would be if you have your boots on and you're ready to climb Mount Everest and they're completely uncomfortable, your laces are all jacked up, and that would be the reason why you didn't reach your goal, the top of the mountain. So there's been a lot of necessary corrections being made. A lot of these corrections have been being made on an energetic level. And in April, I see us really starting to embody this new reality. But it's going to be really crucial that we're really locked in with our intuition, our discernment, and coming from our higher selves, and understanding that what we're building right now is very aligned, destined for our future. So this is some, it sounds really heavy, but honestly, it feels to me like it's really going to just start to come naturally, because all of the crap that isn't really you, isn't really your path, that stuff should really be filtering out of your picture now. And now also with Neptune's transit into Aries, that's where we start to get this like warrior spirit and feeling like, whoa, I really do have the confidence. I do feel empowered. I do feel ready to take this initiative and get this dream off the ground. So there's a lot of different shifts in the way that we've been processing and what's even been available to us energetically. So I urge you to, release the beginning of 2025. If it didn't start out with the big bang that you were hoping for, don't let that be any indicator of how this year is going to start moving. April is that cannon that you wanted to shoot out of, especially when we get to April 17th, when Mars moves into Leo. Now, Mars has been doing its time in Cancer, and we've actually been dealing with that energy since last year, 2024, when Mars first moved into Cancer. And that was really about, having to process emotionally feelings of being nurtured, feeling at home, feeling safe, and almost like this sense of like self-defensiveness too. And then it moved into Leo, and then we got into retrogrades. And then at the beginning of this year, we finally have Mars direct, but it had to make its way all the way through Cancer again in order for us to get to Leo, which is where we now can kind of come out of this internalized cocoon that we've been held hostage in since months on end. So you will probably really enjoy this new pace. It will pick up big time. And when Mars gets out of Cancer, it will stop squaring Chiron that's been in Aries, because that's also been a collective pain point that we've been processing. Collectively, Chiron has been in Aries, but Mars there has been squaring it, just really adding an extra layer of agitation, of this feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm so aware of what is making me uncomfortable and what feels off, but not necessarily having access to the tools and the functions that you need in order to start making changes and making progress, because everything's been retrograde. So this is going to start to clear up. I feel that Mars being in Leo is going to start to really activate this energy, and it's going to really help us like get the party started. It will also be really, really interesting once we hit Taurus season, April 19th, 20th. The sun being in Taurus, we're going to start to be shifting this energy of the activation points start to go into fixed signs. So as you already know, Pluto is in Aquarius at the early degrees. So there will be an opposition in the second part of the month, Mars in Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius. And then we're also going to have some squares to the sun in Taurus. So if you are familiar with these concepts, oppositions, I look at these as like intense periods of change, but being in fixed energy, it's like it's really undeniable. It comes right into your face, like, okay, this is going to get me moving. This might be uncomfortable, but it's so intense that it's like, okay, I've got Mars in Leo, which is a strong energy, Pluto in Aquarius. Something has to budge. And then it's also going to be aspecting the sun in Taurus. Taurus is fixed energy, fixed earth. So expect something to be moving in your life. I would be looking at where you have Leo, where you have Aquarius, and where you have Taurus. Another interesting part is that in Taurus season, this new moon at the end of the month in Taurus is at 7 degrees. And if you've been following along, this moon is what I'm calling the cycle breaker, because it'll be the first moon that we've had in 6. We've had 6 moons in a row, new moons, all at 9 degrees. 9 is all about endings, and it's, to me, I feel like this has been like a cosmic corridor of just like this hallway, and you haven't really been able to see, tunnel vision, where this is heading. And this Taurus new moon is at 7 degrees. This is the embodiment of the new story. So check out where you have these placements in your chart. I think that April is very dynamic. The beginning starts with us having all planets direct as soon as April 12th. Yay! And things start to really come together. They're starting to make sense. You're starting to understand, okay, what is the mission? What am I doing? How am I going to do it? Who's on my team? Who am I going to be working with? Who am I going to be building this dream with? And I see this as a crystallization of this divine, destined, amazing new dream that we are building. So if this is anything that you are needing help with, you can use, there are free websites. AstroSeek is one that I'm actually really liking. Look up your chart. I have some amazing tools on my website, starpathbykara.com. If you sign up for the email at the top, you get a free download, and you can actually fill in your birth information, and it will help you understand the messages in these different positions with the houses and what they mean, how it could show up for you, and the themes. You can also book a personal reading with me on my website, and I also have free Spotify playlists that I love to enjoy to get the musical vibe of these transits. So let me know how this is going for you, and enjoy the changes.